I don't think we're back yet because I'm not seeing.
I don't think we're back yet. I don't see anything on the
Darn it.
page. Yeah, because it already posted the last video, so I think you have to make a new show.
Yeah, I know. I just did. Like, I started
Okay.
again and made a new show.
It could be this BTV thing. Be live.
Yeah, I was figuring.
Oh, I just got a notification. I think we're live.
Yep. No, we're up. We're up. Here we go.
Right.
All right. I don't know if anybody's watching again, but
I gotta
welcome back
find
if
it.
you're joining us.
Yeah, let's give him a minute to get back. We got no one here.
Oh man.
I don't even see the viewer, like how many views they have.
All right. Well, let's apologize for YouTube just not working for like a few minutes. Sorry.
If it was the stream on our end or if it was the YouTube side, but I'm gonna blame Grunie either way. So.
Right. All right, we got 3 watching. It's probably us 3.
It is probably us 3.
Well, yeah.
Oh, now we're down to 2, so someone just left.
Oh, Ed Lexus.
Ed Lexus is back. All right.
Yeah.
You get a prize.
All right. Everyone's coming back in.
Ted, what are you giving away this week?
Yes, I see our stream.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Ted, send these people some stickers. SSV stickers.
We don't have those yet. I don't even have any yet.
This is the greatest time to get them.
We have absolutely no SSV merch. It's a very disappointing time in my life.
Well, once you guys hit 1,000 subscribers, I think it's it's required.
Stickers are necessary.
So anyways, let's maybe try to. Grunie has a Lexus.
Yeah, watch the video where Grunie picks up the G-code in his Lexus.
Oh, okay. So, anyways, it's Mrs. Grunie actually has a Lexus, not me, Grunie, but okay.
So you were talking. You wanted to get into matrices. That's what we were going to talk about.
Yes.
Next.
So I'm going to try to share my screen again. Here we go.
All right.
So I'm going to hang on.
The feed is working.
Oh, we just lost that. Or did you just?
No, that was me. I gotta like juggle for a second, and then
unmute Arno.
Hang on. I am. Come on, do the solo thing, and now I can do this. All right, cool. So we should have everybody back. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. We were talking about matrices.
We are back.
We were talking about matrices, so I will do the PA left right subfill. Aux, we can double patch that. My mono other one. That's just cool because you can trim. The other thing I was gonna say.
Slow down a little bit. What are you doing with that one?
So the other thing I was gonna say, is if I know when we were talking about the filters, if you aren't familiar with the term filter order, a filter order is just in intervals of 6. So first order is a 6 dB proactive filter. Second order is 12. Third is 18, fourth is 24. So if I say, if you were confused when I said third or second order filter, that's just what I meant.
Yes.
So yeah, you can do crossovers in the matrices and the outputs. It does look like you lose low 2 band. But
yeah, so you go from a 6-band parametric to a 5 once you instantiate one of the real filters.
Yeah, but you gotta spend a little money to make a little money.
No, it's worth it though. You'll walk into a venue and the system won't be aligned, tuned properly, and this could help you out a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had one. Well, I own a lake. And
we know you own a lake.
We walked in this one venue this one time, and the guy was concerned because they weren't set up to accommodate a guest console because he was doing his crossover in the matrices for a 3-way PA, and he was confused on how to do it, and I was like, just give me the numbers, and did it myself. So, yeah,
cool. So we have a stereo. 2 matrices linked to make a stereo matrix for our PA.
Yep.
Then after that, we got a sub matrix.
Yep.
And a front fill matrix. And that's all going to be fed from our left-right bus. So anything that goes to the left-right bus is going to get sent here right after the left-right bus.
Yeah.
Now, I know we glossed over this a little bit, but aux fed subs versus matrix fed subs.
Yeah, you know, I've seen a lot of people. They were just like they've always done aux-fed subs, so they want it like that. So I'll quickly switch it around for them if they're using the desk. But my preference is just I run it right off my left right. I make sure I got a good mix on my left right, full spectrum mix, you know, and then I could adjust the level of that with my matrix. That's how I roll with it.
That's exactly what I do too. I was just curious because I know there are still some people. I mean, I shouldn't say still. There are people that do it aux-fed. I've done it in the past aux-fed and had great results.
Yeah,
But
me too.
recently, I guess, really done it off matrices and been able to then do some master bus compression. Again, with
Exactly. That stuff's still relevant with all the stuff you do on your master, still relevant once you feed it to a matrix. It's like,
exactly,
And if you're doing like parallel compression on your drums, that's not getting to the subs.
yeah, exactly. Because if your parallel compression's one of those mix buses, it's not gonna hit the left right. You
Right.
know,
You're
it's gonna go
sending
right
just
out the mix
channel
bus.
to an aux. Yeah.
and I always run my left right at unity pretty much and let it sit there, and I'll actually adjust my room level with the matrix. So if I
Yeah,
need sub, I can usually bump it that way.
for
but that's-
sure.
Yeah, you still have the power of it. It's just
It was
more
interesting.
in line with your
For
signal. flow.
sure. I see a lot of people doing more sound design and musical theater shows liking an aux-fed sub because they really want to keep like other things like the vocals and dialogue out of those and really just use them for sound effects and stuff. So I get why some people do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're
But when
also
I'm talking
treating it.
music, I think this is the most efficient way to do it when you're talking mixing music.
They're also kind of treating that sub like, if we're
Like an
thinking
LFE.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say LFE. I did aux-fed subs when I was touring with rap artists, singular, because just that's how the file and I inherited was set up that way, and this worked out for the amount of low end content, which was, as I don't know if you guys missed it before, but immense. So yeah, so I like to do it off the left right as well. Because
Yeah.
if you set your high pass filters up right, even if you there's stuff that gets into that sub that you wouldn't normally think, like depending on where the
Like the
sub
bottom
comes
of your snare.
yeah,
And I like that.
toms,
I like it when you feel the snare in your teeth.
what else? Maybe guitar if you're doing metal.
Yeah, so someone just brought up in the chat Matrix versus the mono sub feed on the console. So they're talking about that mono bus, using that to run the subs, which I've seen a lot of people do. I still don't like it because I have to manually assign and turn up the level to get it to the subs.
Mhm.
But that is another way to do it. They have that mono bus there. I
Yeah.
usually actually use the mono bus for my talkback signals.
That's interesting. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
I find it really handy for my world, assigning vocal reverb really fast. So I use that as kind of an effects bus, mainly because
So you put your reverbs there, or you feed?
I put my vocal reverb on it, mainly because there's a lot of times where an MC or something will just come out and I have no idea what they're on, but like the group's also there, so like the transition has to be like pretty seamless to like singing and not. And I'm on the M32R, so it's 16 channels, so I can't just have my reverb master and the faders ready for the next group. So I'll just find where the person is really quickly and just kill it right there on top of the desk because you have the assign button right on the front of the surface.
So you're using the monobus as the send to your reverb,
Yeah,
and you're still
sorry.
using a return.
Yeah, I'm still using return, but yeah, that's the send.
Oh, very cool. So just
Yeah.
like in effects 1 through 4, instead of picking it up on like bus 13 where it's normally routed, you pick it up on mono.
Yep. And then also if someone's like soloing and I need to like dive in on something or just add some life to their solo,
it's just right
encoder's
there.
right on top, so I can just select and spin it.
Yeah, that's great because
and then it kind of solos them out.
Yeah, especially on the R because you're missing those 4
right
bus send rotary knobs.
So that's been super. That's
Yeah,
been super helpful for me.
Yeah, that's a great trick. I never thought of that, man. I usually I use my mono bus for talkback signals. I usually on the last tour I was on, I just had 4 talkback signals. The only
Oh, nice.
person that didn't have one was the bass player. So two guitar players, one of them was the lead singer, the drummer, and the keyboard player all had talkbacks. And it was great. I mean, we were playing small clubs, and they're all on ears, so there was communication all the time, and I can know when things are going wrong on stage, and the audience never had to deal with things going wrong because they didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really smart. I never thought about using that as talkback or as an effects end, but those are both really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That,
an extra bus, I never
Oh,
thought of it to
yeah,
use
no,
as a reverb.
Use it as an extra bus. It's totally it's there for that.
Yeah, I just thought
I'm
of it utility bus, I'm like, I'm not using it, so utility,
Yeah.
all my talkbacks go there. You can balance them a little bit.
But yeah, so
I'm so equally guilty of doing aux-fed subs. Like if I'm in a pinch and I might just throw in something up, I will do aux-fed subs because I'm not gonna it depends. It does depend, but a lot of times I'll do aux-fed subs if I just need to throw something up, and I'm not gonna. I'll still high pass in addition to that, but it's sometimes that's a quicker way to get just a go result.
Yeah, and you don't maybe have time to dial in your
the
your
perfect
hi-hat.
crossover.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that is an easy solution just to run and go. So I like that.
And I will use the mono bus for that. In fact, I will go out on a limb and say I almost, and this goes for every console, I almost never use sends on fader. It is just
Really?
not part of how I'm used to working. I still like using encoders. That's just me.
I like
I don't know, what about you
encoders,
guys?
but I've been on the LV1 lately, so I haven't had a fader in a while.
I missed the touch of a fader. I do like encoders. I honestly will still use sends on fader a lot. Being on a D Live, I do have 4 customizable encoders or 4 layers of customizable encoders. So I will use those. But if I'm mixing monitors from front of house, I will still have a layer that is sends on fader for that.
Yeah.
What I meant is I won't use that if I to send to effects. Like for me, I'd rather have an encoder and be able to really finely touch that. It's just never made sense for me to do that.
Yeah.
On
When it comes to putting the sends to these matrices, I like to type values in. I like to be super precise with it. Make sure my matrix is at 0 starting, and I usually start with the subs and front fills sent from the left, right, -6.
So I believe on this, and I'm not sure about that, but I believe it does that math for you. Like if
Yeah,
you
that's
put
just
something at
like
0,
it's just been a custom of mine to start
mine
there
is
with
also.
Yamaha desks,
Yeah, I don't think it does that.
So just that account of left and right adding together, subtracting 3 dB each time.
Yeah, I believe on this, because I think I tried that when I first started doing this, and it was low. I believe this does know if you're setting a stereo source to a mono matrix. I believe it does know if you just put it at 0, it'll do the -3 for you.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never tested it, but that's usually my starting point for people setting up matrices, maybe haven't used them before.
Yeah, I love matrices. Like I have, I'm possibly working on some content with the console I have here at my house, and I have like a camera set up overhead, and I'll have matrices for my near fields. I'll have matrix for, if I'm recording a 2-track from that, matrix to the camera as well. So all those things, my left, right, my master bus is still at Unity or up or whatever. And that's not being affected, but I can still make those offsets in matrices. So the level that my camera needs is very different than what I want to listen to in my room or what I need to be recording.
Yeah.
So it's an easy way to have
Matrices are great for like a good record bus. Matrices are great for that because you could send your stereo bus, and it's not on this input list, but a band with ears, there'd usually be some ambient mics on stage pointed at the audience, and you could put those in your matrix bus, your matrix record bus, to add with your left, right. And after the show, you record that and bounce it out, and you have a very listenable, audio track from the show.
Yeah.
You hope.
And in the recording settings, you can even tell it to be pre EQ and pre fader and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure on this console.
So let's talk about that USB record actually too. I'll run it because I have never ever gotten that to work.
Really?
Yeah.
I've gotten it to work. It's crashed twice on me the entire show, so I stopped.
You mean just like recording your 2-bus mix?
Yeah, to the USB.
Yeah, I had 2 instances where the board froze completely. Qualified flash drive and not. I don't need to start that debate.
Wow.
But if I didn't have the iPad, I would have been screwed. The iPad got me through.
So the board crashed and the iPad was up?
Yeah, the iPad. So the engine was still
Wow.
running, but none of the controls were
Yeah, so the
working.
surface was down.
So
I've never had that happen to me. I've
yeah.
had one crash, but it was totally different scenario. It was actually just moisture in the contacts
Oh wow.
on the ribbon connectors that connect the faders to the brain.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it was just from humidity and touring with it. I literally just had to take it out, reseat those connectors, put some dehumidifier little packets in the
silica
console.
packets.
Yeah, the silica packets. Those are in my console case now.
Yeah, I always
so
buy new
watch
ones
out
every
for
year.
humidity. Humidity is not a good thing.
But yeah, so had that happen, and then we got the XLive cards came out, so we just went that route. Those have their own headaches with their annoying
Those are
files.
the SD cards?
Yeah, the SD recorders, which are cool. The file they create's obnoxious, but
it's like a multi-track wave or something, right?
Multi-track wave that they like wrote a custom Python script that you can run to like break it out, or you can put it in a DAW. I haven't looked.
Could just USB into Tracks Live.
You could USB into Tracks Live, although Tracks Live has been unsupported for like the last 3 years, and you probably shouldn't be using it.
It still works fine though.
True.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, it's just not going to work for the newer operating system. So if you buy a brand new Mac, you can't get Tracks Live. But if you're still on 10.1.4 like me, you're fine.
Yeah, every day I just click remind me tomorrow when it tells me to update.
Oh really?
10.
Yep.
And I've on
.4.
.1.4.
Dude,
about this Mac.
That's like before they even got into the big cats, wasn't it?
No, I'm on High Sierra actually. 10.13.
I'm on High Sierra too. 10.13.6.
Yep.
Me.
Same spot.
Yeah. Now everyone knows your security vulnerabilities on your OS.
Right?
Great.
Right. So do we want to touch on our scenes and snippets? Because I know we had discussed that prior to us launching the stream. And
yeah, so why don't you guys talk about that? Because I usually just do one per show.
Yeah, Greg, you should. I like your thought process on where you use scenes versus snippets.
In fact, if you have a file you want to pull up,
does this file have them loaded?
Let
me see if this have them loaded. Give me a second. Snippet. I don't have them on this file. So I'll just explain it. So we go through a lot of venues that are either we're bringing a PA or there's a PA in the house. So depending on the setup of the room, I use scenes. So like I'll have a scene where it's like RDX provided PA, which is like I already know where the crossovers are for all of our speakers. House PA subs, house PA no subs. So I have like 5 or 6 scenes that I'll use to like get a general starting place. And
so your scenes are like your output configuration.
Output configuration, matrix setup. Because some of them, one of them's like front
Kinda
fills,
like big picture stuff.
Yeah, big picture, so I can hit the ground running, and then just immediately not be worried about routing that kind of stuff, and just get the mics and the PA tuned.
And even on that, I think it's important for everybody really. If you just download the editor, or if you have a console, and just have a template that has some output set up, your effects labeled, maybe some VCAs labeled.
Saves you a lot of time.
When you show up to a gig, you can just load that, and you're not recreating everything every time. You can just and start from your inputs.
Right. And then from there, I'll do snippets per group. So each group does like 3 to 5 songs, depending on how long they are. So I'll EQ each group, each vocalist uniquely. And then I'm capturing on the snippet side the EQ compression and send settings.
For your input channels.
For the input channels. And then it also does the head amp. And then I'm leaving recall saved, or snippet safe, whatever they call it, the effects themselves, because typically I'll do that for the room. The main bus EQ and the sub EQ, just in case that changes throughout the show, or if there's a huge change from sound checks to the house being full of 1,000 people. I can easily make that change, and it'll translate through all the snippets, and I'm not like scrambling to make micro adjustments once I load a new scene, or a new snippet, I should say. So that's how I use them on this board. On like the Yamaha stuff, I usually just do scenes, and then have just separate show profiles.
Yeah.
But having snippets was something new for this console that I've had experience. So it took me a while to figure out the most efficient way to use them. And so that's kind of where I came up with, all right, scenes are for big picture. What space am I in and what equipment's in it? And then snippets I use for kind of the minutia of the show.
Yeah, very, very great way of thinking about it. I like that way of thinking about it a lot. I usually I have snippets for per show. I usually have a start file when I'm on tour. So it's like a starting point with like my vocal EQs flat, the house EQ, house PA EQ flat. Excuse me. And the only thing I really use snippets for just effects when I dial it in where I really like. Sometimes I'll have it per song. And then the other time I use snippets is for like one little trick with this other band I work with. And it's just to turn the gates on and off of the toms, which is a really useful thing to do. But snippets are cool because you could affect only one channel and it can be very selective.
Right.
I think I have a snippet up of the toms going on and off. Let me see if I could share this. I don't think it.
While you're pulling that up, I just want to address this because, you know, hang on.
The EQing everything on the board.
On the board, yeah, you know, a lot of times you're going to roll up to a room, and if you're not carrying, you know, your own system processor, and it's a black box locked out processor, that's what you have. And if you don't like it, then you don't use it. So, you know, and then, you know, hack all your inputs up. So,
and multiple venues that don't let you touch any of their processing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't let.
They're terrible processing sometimes.
Right. So, I mean, I've gone in with, I've had to be like, you know, this isn't right. Like, I can show you on a mic, like, there's, you know, like, are you sure are you sure the amp for your mids is on or that's patched, you know, and we'll go and we'll look at it.
My biggest thing,
I wouldn't, unless there's a problem, expect somebody to give me access, especially to their crossovers and things. If it's black box, for sure. Like, I've had to reprogram someone's performance manager file at a venue, and I don't remember where, but like, you know, I wouldn't expect somebody to, you know, unless it's like a page they're giving me on a separate guest overlay on a lake or something.
I've had to delay subs. I've had to delay mains just to get the time alignment right in a and it's like not by a little bit. So, I mean, it's sometimes you never know what you're walking into. If they don't let you touch their processing, well,
then
you gotta
use yours.
You gotta do what you got. Yeah, use what you got.
And if that's on, and if it's on your console, then it is.
Which is the nice thing about having, if you do have an X32 or M32, you do have that output delay, and you do have those 6-band or 5-band EQ, you know, to be able to dig into it and get it sounding the way you need it to be sounding. So,
I'm going to pull up Cooper's screen. I'm going to do this little juggle thing again.
Yeah, I'm trying to make all of this happen right now. Trying to get all the windows open. Come on, show me all windows. Okay. Am I on?
You are on.
Yeah.
You see my screen?
We do.
Cool. So this is a show file I have. Things are kind of all over the place. But this is one little snippet that I like because I find myself, drummers will take a solo and they'll get really dynamic, but the whole rest of the show, they're, you know, playing super hard. And so I'm gating my toms pretty hard. So up here, you can see the gate for my rack tom that's selected. I'll pull this out of the way. Computer's moving really slow, so bear with me. So if I go down here, I have a snippet. It says T gates off. It's taking a second. I'm going to load that snippet. Yeah, my computer's being really slow. Sorry. But once this snippet comes into focus, I'll show you the parameters it's changing.
Now that's just to turn the gate off entirely, or is that adjusting your threshold and
Yeah, so it is just taking my gates off.
gotcha.
That's how I do it. You could have it just adjust your threshold if you had like an idea of where they're going to go to when they start playing more dynamically. But I found, because not with this band particularly, but this other band I work for, there's 2 rack toms and 2 floor toms. So going to the channel strip and getting to all those gates and turning the threshold down on each one of those is just, it takes too many moves to get done in a short amount of time. I'm going to reload this real quick as I speak. And
make sure your
so
bank
just putting that
is viewable while you're reloading.
Make sure what?
Make sure your bank password and username are viewable while you're reloading.
Okay.
On the home screen there.
Gotcha. I will. All right, let's try this again. All right, cool. So now that I have this in focus, tom gates off, it's going to affect the gate and compressor parameter of these 2 channels. And that's the only thing it's going to change. That's why snippets are really cool. You could really have it affect only what you want to. So when I load this, I wish it would just load, not ask me if I want to. Because I
think you can turn that off, right?
Yes, you can, I think. Oh yeah, your gates are deactivated on those toms.
Yep, so you see my gates go off.
Yep.
And then the next one would be gates on. The only thing with this is you have to resave these every day, at least for your gates on one. Because if you adjust that threshold to a different point on, one show than the show 2 days ago, it's going to be at a different point. So I will, once my drums are all mixed, gates are good, I'll go to that and I'll just hit save and I'll overwrite it. And that'll take the newest value of those threshold settings. And then the on one doesn't really matter to me where the threshold is because I'm just turning the gate completely off.
Yeah, the off.
That's cool.
Yeah, and
it's almost like it's almost like macro function-ish.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, there's a lot you could do with it, but that's just one like quick thing that I always end up doing with this one band I work with. But besides that, you can see I just have vocal effects, warm guitar ambience, drum verb,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can also assign that if you aren't a full-size X32, you have that custom there's custom buttons you can assign.
Yes.
So I'm sure you can assign that. Now, if you assign it to one button, can you turn it on and off with that? No, that wouldn't work, I don't think.
The gates on and off one?
Yeah. You'd probably need 2 buttons.
Yeah, I think you would need 2 buttons. One for the gates off, one for the gates on.
Yeah, but still, I still like that, using that kind of trick to do, especially in something unique like that, where it's like, I just need a gate off.
Yeah, it's like I know he's taking a drum solo,
And it's during this one little part of this song, but what am I going to do? Go hunt down the channel, turn it off, go to the other one, turn it off.
Yeah, and especially when you're talking like 4 toms, like this is only 2 toms. I'd be able to do it pretty quick, especially on a full size.
Yeah. No, I like that. This is good.
Yeah.
Putting that one down in the notebook.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
And, you can make these like more particular. You could see some of these, this Vox room verb I have. It's going to change the effect in effect slot 1, but it's also going to do whatever I did to it on the effects 1 return. So that could be an EQ,
Sure.
to shape the return of that reverb. And you could also, if you wanted something to remember a send level as well, you could really get into that.
Yeah.
Cool. So
yeah, snippets are not something I've really gotten into. So this is good stuff, though. Seeing how other people are using it.
Yeah, snippets can be really cool. It's like a whole different layer than just using scenes, I think, and it was a cool little addition to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't gone too far into snippets because I'm usually, if I'm mixing on X32, I am going home and never seeing that artist again. Usually.
Must be nice.
I took an X32 on a 2-month tour, so when you're in that situation, it was you want to get the best out of your console every night for the band.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that file is pretty loaded up. I have like 4 inputs and 1 output available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was about to say I know a handful of my buddies too that are out there using like the M32 rack, or an X32 on tours. So there is
And they're making great mixes.
that's
You
it.
know,
100%.
it can be done.
I
Just,
know I've heard a few of them and I've dug them. So
Let's
Just
talk
checks
about
will
the
definitely do.
preamps a little bit because that could help you in this situation.
Actually, even real
If
quick,
you
I just
have-
want to talk about presets real quick because
Okay.
I have been witness to something incredible. So it's a festival we do, did every summer. Headliner rolls up, loads his file, and had his USB drive in the console, and between every song, because he wasn't loading his snippets and all that, but just had 3 pages worth of presets that he was recalling on every channel and recalling like an entirely new all 8 effects between songs.
Mm.
And the dude was incredible, and it was an amazing band, an amazing guy. So yeah, you can really, even if you're just walking in on it, you can still have your preset libraries.
Yeah.
Are you
Regardless of
talking he had
console, just
presets for
having
input channels, or are you talking more of like
everything.
and he
Send
was
stuff
firing
on
them
horns,
mid-show?
horns, effects he was recalling mid-show, like between songs. I think there's some horn stuff. I'm not 100% sure, but definitely like he was like complete, including assignments and like device type and parameters, completely recalling new stuff between the sets,
wow.
between the songs.
Very
Really
cool.
cool, really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just I'm gonna have to leave in like 2 minutes, guys. Sorry, I just got put on a work meeting. # not furloughed. So
Yeah, you're the only one here that still has work.
Brag about
but preamps. There's a difference between the Midas preamps in the M series and on the DL stage boxes than they're compared to the S series preamp stage box and the X series Midas designed ones.
Definitely.
100% difference. The Behringer ones that are Midas designed in the S series and the X series clip faster. They get really harsh really quickly if you ever drive them, and they just get really raunchy.
Yeah, they're a little dull sounding too. They lack high frequency response.
Yeah. But you definitely know when you clip them because
Yes.
it's all you get.
Yeah.
But
Good
I
thing
would
to point out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if like, because I know we did this for like one of our second rigs, is we got the X32 Surface with the DL stage box to keep the Midas pre's, and that saved like $1,000 right there. So
Yeah. And I have 2 DL153 stage boxes, and
yeah, if you
they're
go way up,
incredible.
yeah,
They make an X32 sound much better than they would. And I think the biggest step between the DL, which are the blue Midas Pro boxes, originally designed for the Midas Pro series, those, I really believe that it's just the A to D, D to A conversion on those boxes that is better. And that's why it makes it sound even better than the M32 IO.
Yeah, I
That's
think it's just
definitely not a thing to overlook.
it's more accurate A to D for sure.
Yeah, there's just better error correction in
Oh, yeah.
those boxes, which is actually happening in those boxes. And the only downfall to using the DL is that you can't daisy chain them. You can't daisy chain 2 stage boxes together like you can with the Midas and the S series stage
Yeah.
boxes. So you have to run individual Cat5 lines. So I have
Yeah.
2 16 channels. So that means I'm using AES 50A and B on my console.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would potentially limit you then if you're going to do like a monitor split, correct?
Definitely. Yeah, then you don't have that second AES 50 port if you wanted to split to another X series or M series console.
Right.
But what you could do is sound grid to sound grid with the
There's
card.
definitely workarounds.
There's
But
You could also get a
workarounds for sure.
DL251 or something as well. and just
Yeah,
have it
because
protect
I
that.
have the sound grid card, so that would be definitely how I would do it if I came into that situation.
cool.
Yeah.
Greg, thank
But
you.
the DLs sound
Greg?
great.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to get my 2 cents in on that. But
Yeah.
have fun with your X32s.
Thanks for joining us,
You
Greg.
can make great shows on them, and I don't know when I'll be on next, but hopefully soon. Hopefully. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, I have a couple more
Greg.
points I want to.
See you guys.
There we go. There's 3 of us. So I have a couple of things I want to talk about too. About that. One is do not trust the meters above the faders. Definitely make sure you're looking either at the screen or soloing and looking at that meter, because even if you gain it up to what it's saying, minus 18 on that little meter, I have often found that is not actually minus 18. That is usually down around like maybe minus 25 ish.
Mhm.
And if you actually select the channel, look at the meter on the screen or solo it, that you are getting lost my train of thought. You're coming in lower than you think you are.
Yeah.
So if you actually look at it, you can actually get your gain structure right. I also feel like the summing on the X32 and the M32, but not as much. But the summing on the X32 is not can get a little bit squirrely.
Yeah, it's not the best, but for the price point,
Yeah.
It's pretty great
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
under
For sure.
$3,000.
Yeah, I think, and another thing that I've seen people do is, because I shouldn't say always, but I very often run it into Tracks Live or something like that, and I look at those meters because you could bring that meter bridge up pretty big, and
Yeah.
that's right on your pre. So if you're pulling
Yeah.
that right at your pre, you can definitely see where that meter's hitting. Because I don't always trust console meters, especially on a compact meter like that when it's shrunk.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
always think about that.
And you don't know what your ballistics are either.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and the thing is, it's that same little meter by the preamp if you're just looking at the meter next to the knob too, So
Yeah.
unless you solo that and bring it up on the
Right.
meter that's next to the mains, or you go to the meters page and get a better representation, or the config by the preamp, it'll give you a better view.
Yeah.
I want to debate this because that may be true in analog, but I do not want to hear converter clipping. That's not what I'm going for.
For sure. It's a different story when you're on a Pro Series and you could juice up the pre and trim the digital trim down and get some actual clipping that's in the preamp before the A to D, D to A.
What's up, Kay?
Mike K.
What
Digital
up?
clipping, no good. I agree. Analog
Definitely.
clipping, very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, but Midas and even like Digico, it's different if you're gaining the pre hot and letting, taking advantage of all that bit depth, and maybe with the Midas getting that harmonic distortion and then trimming it back down so that your fader resolution is right. That's different than letting the converter clip.
For
Agreed.
sure.
Because I've done that trick as well, where I juice up my preamp a little bit, and there's again on a D Live, so it's don't think you have the same capability, but juice the gain on my pre and back off on my trim just to get my level set. But I love the pre sound much more that way.
Yeah.
So.
I really like doing that on guitars.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a great thing when you just get that little bit of extra saturation. When I'm on a Midas Pro Series, I always reach for that trick.
And
Yeah.
yes, M32 pre's are more forgiving, as we were just saying.
Yeah. The other thing to know about too is that the actual preamp gain is in 2.5 dB steps, and then so when you're turning that knob, you're moving both the trim and the head amp gain. So the trim is filling in the gaps between the 2.5, the 2.5 dB steps, I believe.
Mhm.
So that's another thing to know about as well.
I think you could go
So
by
if you're, like,
0.5, but I could be wrong.
What is it?
I think you could go by 0.5 in the preamps, but I could
Is
be
it?
wrong.
I forget.
At
It's
least
been
with
a while.
my DL series, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like
DL's
0.5.
different though. The DL's different than like the X32, M32.
I'm sure. I haven't
preamps.
used those in a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it might even be just the gain stage that they put in it. It might even be like the same circuitry. It's just a different step, digital gain step that it gives you.
Mhm.
So, what else we want to talk about X and M32s about getting at your most out of them?
So I think one of the things that we didn't touch on yet is monitors from front of house.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but yeah.
We did touch on it maybe a hair, but I think a lot of the gigs that these consoles are on that's what you're going to end up doing. And I know we set up this file to do that. And so how do you take a show that, yes, you could put 2 consoles there, but the artist might not know the difference if you're just giving them monitors from front of house. So what's the move there? How do you kind of maximize your console to be able to do both so you don't have to send 2 consoles?
Yeah. So obviously we're gonna want to double patch stuff like vocals.
Yeah, that's the most important part, probably determining what your most important inputs to the artist are, so that you could have those double patched, so you could shape them differently than what you need out front.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, I want to bring this up real quick. Mike, can you elaborate on what you mean by AES50 linking, like a X32 to an X32?
I think he probably means if you're doing two consoles.
Yeah.
That's at least what it would. My guess would
Sure.
be. But
Yeah. So, yeah. Just comment just elaborate a little bit on that.
um, so back to kind of discussing if you are stuck with one console, or you choose to just send one console because maybe you're doing a gig by yourself, it's speakers on sticks, 3-piece band, and you got a few wedges on stage, or in this case, you have 3 sets of ears and a wedge. Still doable to mix monitors from front of house for sure. So I think my first thing always is, I mean, obviously get your gain staging right. That's going to be critical,
For sure.
both front of house and monitors. But I always make sure my pickoff point is set where I want it for ears versus wedges. And wedge, I will generally do actually pre-EQ.
That's interesting.
Just only reason is if I do EQ changes
Yeah.
on the channel while I'm in show, I don't necessarily want that to happen in the wedge if I've sat there and really dialed in my wedge, especially because my change could cause feedback in that case. So
Right.
something that I always kind of keep in mind is in ears, it's a little different. If there's guys that are really picky, you're going to have 2 consoles. But for most artists, I try to just do that pre EQ, and then I will kind of try to shape with the EQ on that wedge.
Actually, you know what? This might be interesting. Mike, do you just want me to send you a link? Do you want to come join in on this?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a good question that people probably might have some, trouble setting up, linking
Yeah,
two consoles
it's
together with
actually fun.
AES50.
I'm gonna text you a link, Mike.
I just reached out. I got a frantic phone call from a church not that long ago that I work with, when kind of all this was going down, saying, "Hey, we need help with our broadcast stream, and making it sound good. What can we do?"
Hmm.
And they're already running an M32 at front of house, and I have an M32R that's sitting here collecting dust because I have no work. And I said, you know what? Why don't we link them? I like his response. Okay, Mike doesn't want to join us. Um,
Oh, never mind. Too late. I sent you a link anyways. Oops.
so,
Um,
and what we ended up doing is we ended up linking the M32R to their front of house console and set that up as a broadcast mixer. And we're able to just get all those channels in there. It took a little bit of finagling based on the way they had everything set up in their patching. But I guess Grunie, you're the one that I called when I had a couple questions. So do you want to explain how to go about it?
yeah, let me see if I can actually get this to pop up, and I will show you guys in this menu. Let me see.
Yeah, so let's talk about the process of linking two consoles together.
Let's see.
First of all, you need to decide which one is the master console.
Yeah, I usually like doing monitors for that because they're closer to the stage. So if a mic moves or something.
Yeah, but
then
let's
they
keep
can
this
see.
scenario. So front of house console adding a broadcast console.
Okay, so let's do
Okay.
that.
Yep.
I am going to share this screen real quick.
We got to get Mike on the show. We haven't seen
I
seen
know.
his
I've
face in a
been meaning
while.
to call you, by the way, too, just to check in, and I keep haven't gotten around to it yet. So
Yeah, he
maybe
says
call
that
me after this. So I'm gonna solo this and hide us for a second. So what we're looking at here is the input page. So let's say that we are getting our inputs from stage box on stage, a DL or whatever.
So we're on the main console right now.
Yeah, so we're on our front of house console. So we're getting our inputs from AES50A, and we're going 1 through 8, yeah, all that stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our AES50AB, and we want to make our AES50B outputs our AES50A inputs. So we're using these as tie lines.
Yes. So the AES50A is going direct out of the AES50B outputs.
As well as hitting the console. It should be made clear. So you can do that. You could also maybe do IQ, or not IQs, alternate if you wanted to do, direct outs and send some processing or something. But for this, we're assuming that we're doing a direct digital split. So A to B, the next thing you're going to want to do, you've set that up. So then you're going from your box AES50A or B to your next console into their AES50A, you would make, your inputs on that console AES50A.
Yeah, so now we're on the second console, and you would
Right.
make those inputs AES50A, but the main thing is you need to change that sample rate.
Right. So what you would do is, let me see, I think this is going to be in setup, and I got to drag this back over to the other screen.
So for everyone watching, theoretically, we're on the second console, which is receiving the digital split.
And so what I'm going to do is, we're going to be at 48 because I don't really think anybody uses 44.1 anymore. And then we're going to make our synchronization from AES50A. So we're going to be grabbing our clock source from
the other console.
Right.
Yeah. So the first console, front of house console, is the main, is the master clock, and it's using its internal synchronization.
Correct.
The second console that's receiving the split is clocking from its AES50A port so that it's in sync with the first console.
Right. And actually, maybe we should talk about some of the options that are in this setup page while we're on here as well. So obviously, the pop. Well, we were talking about Greg with the pop-ups, or no, with you, Cooper, with the pop-ups, I believe.
Yeah.
So I believe this scene preset load will take care of what you want. Hard mutes, DCA groups, channel on buttons. I don't know why anybody would want this. That is my least favorite thing.
They're coming from a Yamaha, probably.
About the Yamaha.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
So what that is then how in Yamaha it's
so instead of mute, it's on off.
Yeah.
Right.
So that just I've never that's
Okay.
a thing.
They just changed the name to appease Yamaha people, and I'm a
Right.
Yamaha person.
So, but to me, I would always look at that and think it's muted because that's just what I'm used to seeing that way.
Same.
Yeah, and if you were running your show on Snippets, like Greg was talking about earlier, you could move your show control from scenes to Snippets.
You can. Let's find that.
It's right there, show control.
Because I can read. Yeah, so you just go to Snippets. Cues.
Yeah, so when you have it on Snippets,
have any of you guys used cues? I haven't really dived into what that is.
I have not.
Yeah, I know there's some options in there. Actually, let me pop this question up because I have a strong opinion on this. Deciding between the QU32 and the X32. X32. I feel like the QU32 is a very basic, straightforward. Don't get a lot of functionality out of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of limitations. I think I'm an Allen and Heath guy through and through. But I think if you are between those two, I think the X32 gives you, or M32, either one of those gives you a little bit more functionality. If you can step up to the SQ, I would jump to that because that does give you more than the X32 even. So, and yeah,
you have 48 inputs, right?
You get 48 inputs. You're running at 96. You have incredibly low latency in the board. So definitely some really nice.
I want to address a few questions in the chat.
Sure.
People were asking about redundancy. There is no redundancy for these systems.
Nope.
For this style of AES, at least with the Pros, there is redundant AES, but
not with this system. There's no automatic switching between AES50A and B ports, even if you ran two separate lines.
Correct. You just have to manually switch it, and SoundGrid's that same way right now.
Yeah, people are doing some lag configurations that are getting about like a half-second drop, so people are improving on that. But
that's interesting. So how does that work?
It's a different it's a router that has a different protocol. It's like a lag protocol. I've been trying to learn more about it, but it's kind of like a Dante redundancy where you have two. It's one router, but it's separated. The ports are separated so that you have like your A and your B, and one's redundant, and it's supposed to automatically switch over, which some people have some good success with. But the switches are expensive though; they're like $1,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And
so if you're looking at the overall hardware cost, if your console is $3,000, is it worth buying a switch for $1,000?
Yeah, exactly. It's like is redundancy that important for these?
Right, but
do you want to talk about the static ESD?
Oh yeah,
I like because you had a good solution for that.
Yeah, so a common problem with AES50 protocol in general is it runs into static discharge problems. So static will build up on your Cat5 cable running from your digital snake to your console, and it'll discharge at either end of the Cat5. And when that happens, it breaks your AES50 sync. So you lose inputs and outputs from your digital stage box.
And a nice big pop.
Yeah.
And a nice big lightning strike sound through the PA.
How quickly do you get it back though, or do you lose it?
It's like 2 seconds. It feels like a long time.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a long time. Yeah, it definitely feels like a long time. And people had a lot of these issues, and it was so messed up because Behringer said use unshielded Cat5, and the Midas Pro Series stage boxes said use shielded Cat5, and nothing was the same. So you didn't know what to do. So Grunie put me on a video of a guy running into that problem, and I built a little tester. See if I can get it. I think I have it. But the tester was made out of a lighter.
Like we were saying, yeah, that they do have the redundant for that.
I found it. So to test this static electricity discharge, I took apart a grill lighter and I took the sparker out. And now I have this little sparker, and it'll shock me a tiny little bit. And it's like a low voltage. It's like a low voltage static charge. So when I go to my stage box and shock the chassis, audio drops because you lose that sync. When I go to my console and shock the chassis of my console, audio drops as well. And this was when I was using a GLS audio at Cat5. It's the EtherCon and RJ45 adapter.
Got the disconnect little end. Right?
Yeah, the little disconnecting end, so it could be RJ45 or EtherCon. And what I found was I took apart these cables, and the ground was dumped on one end. So this is a grounded, shielded cable as advertised, and it's dumped on one end, which is normal with Cat5 cables to have that dump. But it wasn't dumping correctly because it was breaking connection between the console and stage box. So I bought some Proco 240-foot Cat5e shielded cables, and then I did this test again on the chassis and on the console, and I shock it and it doesn't drop. So it really just matters on the quality of your Cat5e or Cat6 cable, and it has to be shielded.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, that's
I know you and I have both had success with the Link Cat.
Yeah, I use Link. I really like their stuff. The anything, Rapco. I know Redco up in Connecticut makes it too.
Interestingly, so about the whole Converticon thing, and SoundGrid in particular is really sensitive to this. But I had we had the Converticons out with the LV1, and I didn't have any issues with the shielding on that, and it's really sensitive to that. The Link Cat5 or Cat6 is made really well, so there might be some through and through way for that shield to connect anyways.
I do see Mike saying that the Pro Series need that unshielded, which, if I'm not mistaken, is what they recommend with Pro Series.
Yeah.
So, and yes.
Yeah. So that's why it was all backwards. So I just had it backwards. So Behringer was saying use shielded. Pro Series was saying use unshielded. I was using the Pro Series stage boxes with the Behringer. So it was like, what am I supposed to do? So it really just took taking a lighter apart, building a little shocker, and figuring it out.
Yep. Yeah, and if you buy the cable from Midas directly, I'd hope that works. They're
I'd
hope. So besides that, obviously, if you have had that issue and you're pulling your hair out, hopefully that's a solution for you guys.
I find myself having to run copper sometimes.
Yeah, I would also say try to keep these cables off the floor. When I was on tour, I never would let them run my Cat5 cable on the floor. It always had to go up on the ceiling, over doorways, all that stuff. So just get some extra length so that you don't have to run it across the floor, because that's where you're going to get those static problems and people stomping on them, and it's just not going to turn out good. And this is only with AES 50 protocol. If you're running a Dante network, what do you disagree with, Mike?
Yeah. See, this is why we need you in here, because this doesn't work. I was just asking you what you're saying.
Because I
sent you the link. Use it.
Too slow to.
There's a lag.
Chat. Yeah.
Conversation link.
We'll have Arno on to do an Allen and Heath specific
Yeah,
video. Someone's
Yeah,
asking
I
about
did do that.
redundancy in that.
I don't have as much time on the SQ. Though now in retrospect, maybe that's something I should look at, is getting an SQ. But I could still do some Allen and Heath stuff. By no means an Allen and Heath kind of be all end all, know it all. I don't even have the DLive certification. I was supposed to go to a course and it happened. What was it supposed to be?
You probably got some ticks and trips though.
I have some tips and tricks, but
we'll talk about this another time.
yeah, we'll do that another time. I think, kind of to stay on topic, one of the things that bothers me sometimes about the X32, and when I come back to it from another console, is that I poke at the screen and it's not a touch screen. Call me.
I do that on every console, though. I do that on the Pro.
I do it on a Pro too. I should say the same thing. Any Pro series that I come across, I poke at the screen, I'm like, oh yeah, this stupid little ball, and So I think that's one thing.
I do that with a profile, jabbing at the VGA screen.
We sound like some real like millennial mixers.
I know, right?
Here. Like, where's my touch screen?
Coming from another console, coming back to it, it is kind of like it throws you, right? So I think for a console that was built in kind of early 2010s really is when it was designed, to not have a touchscreen is not crazy. But I feel like now that we've moved into, we're now in 2020, shouldn't it?
I think that's kind of where the wing is.
Yeah. So
maybe let's talk about that a little bit.
Thing, dude.
I don't know.
Even understand it. I don't know enough to talk about it. It's just its whole thing, man.
Yeah. I see that as a swing and a miss console. That's just my opinion. It's
I don't think anyone's gonna take it that far. I had a lot of hopes for it though. I really did.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, if they could do something like the X32.
Oh, K's coming in. Here we go.
Oh boy.
Does he disagree with my?
What's up, man? Long time no see.
Mike K.
You guys got me on here. I don't believe it.
Was
I'm
it
glad
that my tester? You don't like the tester?
No, just I'm listening to the talk of the X32 thing, and I'm telling you the fucking copper snake is the only reliable way. Am I on the thing right now?
Yeah, no, you're
in.
I agree.
Am I on the chat? Like, what am I doing right now?
You're just video.
Everybody.
Yeah, people could hear you and see you. That's all.
So,
okay,
honestly,
dude, X32, M32, the copper snake is the only reliable way. I've tried every version, and the official answer that I got from Music Tribe or whatever the hell they're called now is they only recommend a shielded 100-foot Cat 5e cable. That's the only thing that they recommend. And I tried to get a straight answer out of the guy. I was like, so is the lightning bolt like a known thing? He's like, I can only tell you that a 100-foot shielded Cat 5e cable is what we recommend. I was like, all right, so was I getting the lightning bolt because it was more than 100 feet? The guy's like, I can only recommend 100 foot. So in other words, it's like they're trying to say that the only way to make that not happen is if you have a short cable, which, let's face it, 100 feet's like good for nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, and if I don't know, like, just if that's the case and you need to have that lightning bolt thing not happen, it has to be a copper snake.
Yeah.
Ask Grunie, dude. Anytime I've ever taken a chance where I'm like, yeah, let's try the snake, or we would try the Midas boxes, you don't always get the lightning bolt, but you'll get dropout. You'll get like this little static sound, then a disconnect, and then all of a sudden it comes back.
Yep.
So,
and by the way, Cooper, I only hear you. I don't hear any of the other guys. So
hear
I don't
me?
even know if they're on
How about
talking right now.
You hear me?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't hear you guys right now, but he hears me. Yeah, they did say something, but damn, that's interesting. I mean, I've been running 240-foot shielded Cat 5e, but keeping it off the floor, I've had no issues. But
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that, like, I mean, I've had gigs where we did use a stage box and we get away with it, and then I would start getting confident, like, all right, man, it's good now. Like, I don't know, I guess we got the right cable this time.
Yeah.
And then one day you're doing a gig, and then all of a sudden it happens, and you go, what the,
Yeah.
Yep.
That's my daughter.
Hi, Maya.
Hey.
Mike, can you hear me?
Maya.
Nah, he can't hear you.
That's weird.
Well, anyway, I don't know if you guys figure out how to get me on the thing. Try.
You're on. No, you're on.
It's weird.
You're on. You just can't hear.
I don't know why you can't hear me.
All right, I'll keep watching.
All right, Mike. Thanks for chiming in.
Celebrity appearance. Good to see you.
So yeah, that's it, guys. Copper snake, or that's it. Or I say keep your cables off the ground. You'll be pretty good.
With that, the other,
I was gonna say there's one festival we do where people are just jumping on the cable because there's no other place to run it, and that's definitely
Cable ramps.
your other option, if you are doing an install, is run that through conduit.
Yeah. I am curious, real quick.
Yeah.
Sound Freak, are you 15 years old, or are you have 15 years in the experience? Those are two very different things.
I wish I started this when I was 15.
Yeah,
I
same.
was 16.
No, I did
Yeah,
start.
but you're Grunie.
I mean, I started mixing. I started mixing high school musicals. Like,
Yeah, I was about to say I
yeah.
started getting more serious about it at that point. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in high school is when I was more serious. So.
Yeah, and even I mean, I would have, gotten on my knees for an X32 when I was in high school. We mixed on analog, and we weren't allowed to have outboard because the guy who they were renting it from didn't believe in us having outboard. So we had our fingers. 15 years old. You
Nice.
talk a big talk for 15.
We didn't have an X32 in high school because they didn't exist when I was in high school.
Yeah.
All analog.
They started becoming commonplace when I remember seeing my first one at another shop I interned at the middle of 2014. So.
Yeah.
So we'll close this out, guys. We've been going for
yeah. Let's maybe just talk about effects we like, things we want to see in it, and then we'll close it out for the day. So I don't expect them to make any major updates to it. Now they have the wing and the Heritage D is coming out.
Yeah, I think the last update they did was that routing, user definable routing. That was a key update for me, at least. But hopefully they could do, just some new effects. They've been promising that since it came out. Oh yeah, new effects will come in new firmware. So that's really the only thing I really need to see on this console, because what you're throwing at it, it's got the tools that you need,
Yeah. And it's interesting. They've been giving like all the other. I wonder if it's maybe a CPU thing, or they've given all the other consoles the VSS3 verbs. So
probably is a CPU thing.
Yeah, I'm just curious about. I'm curious to see how far they can take it, and if they kind of are. When they built it, that's kind of the max, and then what they're able to do is kind of just some really poking at some stuff to get it to.
Yeah, to max it out even further. Yeah. Compare analog and digital stage boxes. We have a question.
Like a copper snake versus a digital snake. Besides the reliability, supposedly it's the same stuff.
Yeah, I mean, analog. The downside is it's heavy. If you've got a long run, especially if it's 32 channels or
more.
Yeah.
Or
heavy, bulky, and if it's really long, you could get some signal degradation, but it shouldn't be something that you can notice until you're really long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
befores and whatever.
But as Mike K said, copper snake's the only way to go with this if you don't want lightning bolts coming through your PA.
Yes. Or in your case, Cooper, you got the right cable, I guess. I don't know, but
the right cable, and he's adamant about how his cable gets run. So
yeah. No, that makes a difference for sure.
It does. Somebody wrote MBC dynamic EQ effects emulators. So I'll just touch on this real quick, and the Fairchild one I'll touch a little bit, but on the whole, I don't like the effect comps that much.
Yeah, the LA2A just adds all this top end.
It does.
That's like kind of grainy, and LA2As do have like a high frequency shelf knob in them, but like just right when you turn it on, the high end is like shelved, and it gets a little grainy, honestly. So that's why I stay away.
Stuff, yeah,
I stay away from those. The really only one is the transient designer that I use constantly.
The MBC is a weird one. That their multi-band comp thing, I've never really gotten a grip on how it operates.
Yeah, I tried it on my left, right, a few times in a club show. The only thing I liked with it was I turned the top 3 bands off and just used the low band to kind of just like smush my low end a bit.
Sure.
It was like some pretty heavy rock stuff and just like a nice slow attack. and a pretty long release on the
Just keep
low end.
building up,
Just lets
yeah.
the kick through, but then mushes it with the bass after it's been through. But
Mm.
I couldn't get it to work all 4 bands like smoothly. You know, I had to bypass or put the ratio at 1-to-1 for the other bands.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about like the SSL or anything. I definitely want to kind of keep this X32 related
Yeah.
because you know
Because
the whole idea of
SSLs
this is
sound
not
too good to bring that into this
yeah, I
conversation.
think the idea
Yeah.
was to not compare this to expensive consoles.
I have been able to spend a little bit of time on an SSL, but that is in a totally different league.
We
So,
will do another
Yeah.
conversation about that.
I mean, on the topic, what are some like alternatives, comparables that you guys think? I mean, I know my opinion, so Grunie.
I kind of feel like this is it for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like this stands above the other ones. I believe that the SQs sound really good. That's a little above this price range. But this console could do a lot, and I would prefer this over an SQ just because I know it more, not because
Yeah,
it
I
makes
feel
Totally.
like
it
for
better.
me, and I've said this before, just the way Allen and Heath Digital is laid out doesn't agree with me mentally.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, Grunie. I think my thing is,
Sorry, somebody just brought that name up. I've never actually used any of the Studio. I have Studio One that I use, but I've never used a Studio Live console
I
ever.
did 20. It's a long time ago. A little club.
Oh yeah, that 16 channel. Those
Man.
things are terrible.
I used like first gen or whatever it was. Not a fan. No, I was gonna
The
say
thing with those is you could like blow on the fader and it'll go to +10 on those PreSonus consoles.
No, I was gonna say is the only reason I would look for an alternative at this point would be because just age. You know, it is getting up there in terms of when this console was developed, and just the technology has improved so much. Your processing ability, you know, it's gotten cheaper to have more computer essentially.
Yep.
So I think that it's still a console that answers a ton of questions, and it still fits a huge role in our industry in a certain level. But I also think that there are options, like if you look at an LV1, you know, if you look at the SQ, if you look at, you know, some of those in that range, and you know, within the same price range without jumping, you know, to $7,000 or $8,000. I just think that there are now consoles that do more.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
you know,
But
that's
it's kind of crazy. Think about what was in the spot that the X32 is in right now.
nothing.
Right, it was
Before
kind
the
of the LS9,
X32.
really.
The
So
LS9?
Yeah, kind of.
you know,
Yeah.
that's what I learned digital on when I first made a switch. So
Click, spin.
yeah, dude, I was on one not that long ago, unfortunately, and I remembered why I was miserable. You know, they got rid of the big analog console to get this LS9, super cool and
Yeah.
fancy, but man, I realized it was great at the time, like learning it and getting hands on like moving faders, like how cool. But man, don't miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that we haven't really talked about is that the whole X32 family of products answers quite a lot of fills quite a lot of needs within kind of the flyable industry. You know, there's so many people that have either like the M32 core and stage box or X32 rack as their on-stage monitor mixer for their
Yep.
self-contained.
I
core rack
have a
unit.
rack set up that I
Yeah.
brought for portable monitor mixer on fly dates, and you know, it's a great solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, in my opinion, no one has yet come out with a product that touches that setup. Like
Right.
X32 or
Definitely.
you know, and you know, until I'm blue in the face, I'll say it doesn't sound great, you know,
No,
but
for sure.
man,
Especially if you have headphones in or in-ears in.
that's insane. It's tough on the in my opinion, it's fatiguing. It doesn't, you know, sound as good as a better console, but man, there's still nothing that has the capabilities of throwing, you know, what used to be the X32 core or X32C, what is now replaced with M32C, and a 32 input stage box of whichever variety into a rack. There's nothing that meets that capability yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly,
The
that was a
form
possibility.
factor and everything you could do, because everything we talked about today, you could still do on the rack.
Total.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Let's do
We've
it.
been going on for an hour and 10 on this video, and I think we're close
We're
to
over an hour on the other.
before. So
Yeah, no one's gonna watch these; they're too long.
yeah, this has just been thanks for sticking through the
Yeah.
3 to 4
If you
people
did
that have
watch
been
this
here.
long, remember
Yeah,
to,
if you watch this long, my bank
like-
PIN number is. Um,
You will get stickers.
Yeah.
video. We're gonna continue putting more out. Grunie, you're back on Friday, right?
So let me just wrap it up a little bit. So I think we're gonna be back on Friday for the usual group chat. Join me next Wednesday, same time, same place. My friend Chris Custer is gonna be here talking about an
sweet.
artist that he TMs in front of houses for, and a variety of other shoes or hats he wears for that artist. So don't miss that. And again, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see something particular from us, just leave a comment or harass us. I meant to say, by the way, too, that guy whose video I sent you to, it turned out giving us a lot of crap on our wing review. But so just, a little small world there. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Peace out.
See you guys.